Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting to get your perspective, because you really, you stood out, or have stood out throughout this entire process, in that you really didn't let much slow you down. Like, even when you were having trouble with monitoring stuff, you really made sure that you were still doing the things that you like to do. You were still meeting people. You were still getting out there and having fun with your dogs. You traveled more than most people do. In the last 3 years, you've been to places that more places than most people probably will ever go. And I admired that. I still do admire that. I think that's a commitment to your mental health right there.
That was one of the more frustrating things I found with the monitoring contract is, they shove you into this box that says, this is what's going to keep you sober, when in fact, they're trying to do everything in their power to make you live a specific lifestyle that might not condone your lifestyle, which, like, my lifestyle and my sanity came from adventuring, came from, doing all of these things. But this contract was really trying to stop me from doing all those things. And I had to fight tooth and nail to try and do the things that kept me healthy. And because they wanted me to live this one track path that is like, you log in every morning, you have to go to this facility at this time, and it's, you have to come to this amount of meetings every month. There was not a lot of room for breathing in that contract. And it was frustrating. And for someone, like, I'm a pretty strong person and I can stand up for what I believe in, but for somebody that maybe falls a little bit more on the softer side, this program will break you. It will literally break you. Like, it does not allow a lot of room for growth or independence or anything, which also for some people will need that coming out of and wherever they're coming out from. 100%. And people need to be guided and need this structure. So I get it could work for some people, but for the majority of people, it's not going to work. Like, it will work, but it is challenging. Like, it was challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And what you did there, it comes back to our conversation that Nathan and I have had a number of times about our hierarchy of values, and that you found a way to put those things that were important to you first. But is it uphill? Absolutely. And are you up against a pretty big force to try to keep your own value system in line and, like, do the things that are true to you? Big time. But for our listeners and for someone who's just starting to go through it, I hope that that's something that they hear, is that it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
It can be done. So I really commend you for that.
It can be. And yes, I do want to touch on it. I don't want to make the program seem awful and terrible and that it's, like, not doable, because it is. And I was able to do it, and I was able to still do the things I love, and I was still able to date, and I was still able to go adventuring. So it is possible. You just got to want it and make it happen. And you can, and I did, and I finished the program. So it is possible. I don't want to create this, like, dark black cloud.
Mm-hmm.
The dark black cloud is already there for anyone who knows it and has experienced it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're kind of talking about it already, but can you think of any other advice that you would give to someone who's just starting out? Maybe they're at day 0 or day 1 and they think, how am I going to navigate this?
Just breathe, honestly. It helps the most. Just to get through it. And the Caduceus group, this is a shameless plug for Nathan, I swear, but that group helped me get through this program.
What's that group called?
It's the Caduceus group.
Obsidian support, I think, something like that. Yeah.
Obsidian support. Yeah. It was the only good thing that came out of the program, because I look back and I'm like, what would are things that I would change sometimes? And I don't know if I would change a whole lot, but, like, it was that one group was able to, like, give me resources to know that I wasn't alone, and there are other healthcare professionals. And, you're able to vent and talk about things that sometimes aren't acceptable in other kind of group meetings. Because there's, like, a straight and narrow path, and then just meeting like-minded people and knowing I don't know, that was one of the things that really helped me, was the Obsidian support group meeting. And just acceptance. God, I hated that saying when I went to treatment. Acceptance is the answer. But honestly, it is sometimes. And if you want to get through this monitoring contract and you want to get back to bedside nursing, and that's your plan, it's a 3-year contract that you're not going to get straight A's and get let out sooner. Like, it's just not going to happen. So if you just kind of accept that and move forward, then it will get easier there. You know, you can do it. I think that's kind of what helped get me through it. The days were hard.
How often do you think you had to remind yourself, how often did you have to give yourself that message of acceptance of your current situation or current circumstance?
I mean, every day, because every day you had to check into monitoring, and every morning was a reminder that you were in this contract. Like, every day you had to check in. So it was a daily, and sometimes more than once time a day. So it never went away. Like, it didn't. It was daily reminder.
Yeah, that's a rough one. You know, I never had an experience like that. The way my program was set up, they didn't have the technology where it wasn't with the company that you were with. And I've heard a lot now of people having trouble after they are released back into the wild, where they have nightmares or they wake up, or it's like they forgot to check in or something. And that happens for a little while and then it goes away. And I don't like the idea of a monitoring company being inside somebody's head that much, because our attention is valuable, you know. And I don't know, I'm going to have to think about that a little bit more, but I'm sorry that that you had to go through that. And I think there are real benefits to being monitored, especially in situations like myself or Corey was faced with, where if you're going back into an environment where your drug of choice is there, and you don't even, you don't want to be there in the first place. It's like a rat in the cage, right? And it's you really want to have that added protection there, but man, it's there's got to be some changes made here, because it doesn't have to be like this.
It shouldn't have to be like this. I definitely thought I was going to have those nightmares and wake up panicking, think I haven't checked in. I think I was so ready for it to be done. I have not panicked or thought I had to check in a single time. I've been out of the monitoring program for 3 weeks now. Not a single day I've been like, shoot, I forgot. There are days I'm like, frick yes, like I don't have to do it anymore. But I never had the panic moments. And I have talked to some people that have had, like, they did have them, but I thankfully it was done, and it's done, which is thankful. I'm thankful for that. It's not to say it won't happen eventually.
Can you imagine, Cassidy, if I know you had trouble with maybe people who are new, they didn't understand the monitoring process, whatever. You received phone calls sometimes that were not necessary and were stress inducing. I can remember you talking about receiving phone calls about things that you were supposed to do and you didn't. And you're like, what are you talking about? I did that already. And they're like, oh yeah, you did. Never mind. And that kind of thing where it, skyrocket shoots your blood pressure to the moon for no reason. What's going to happen if you get one of those calls like next week?
Oh my God. That reminds me, there was the amount of things that this program did to like a vulnerable population, like the times they'd call me and threaten me that, I'm using too much of the budget and I'd have to pay. And I was like, you shouldn't be talking to a vulnerable population like this. Like,
no,
this should not be talked this. And I remember one other thing that were a really big breach of confidentiality. When one of my monitoring contracts changed to another monitor, they sent my entire profile to some random person on the island. And they emailed me being like, sorry, we sent your stuff to this person, but don't worry because they're a healthcare professional. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, wow. I don't care that they're a healthcare professional. Like, what if that was sent to somebody that knew me or somebody that knows of me, or simply now has all this information about me and my monitoring contract? Like, if I made a boo-boo in my monitor, I would be like, oh, sorry, no big deal. It was just once. Like, I would be reprimanded highly. And then they do something that is a complete breach of confidentiality. And it's just like, oops, sorry.
Yeah,
and that was it. Oh, I remember I was so mad.
I mean, that's something that could at the very least, it could affect your ability to get a job down down the road. Not that that's going to happen, but it's the idea. I think that the part of that bothers me, besides the obvious, is that so often employers, colleges, they all like to hide behind, whenever you ask them for information, they hide behind confidentiality all the time. Oh no, we can't do that. It's a breach of confidentiality. And to have, even the way the monitoring contracts are written up, it's basically a free for all. But and then to have just your profile randomly sent to some person, I mean, that could have devastating consequences in many different ways in today's society, like beyond what would be the immediate psychological effects. Yeah.
And just fundamentally, like how we treat people. I mean, whether you're vulnerable or not, that people who are hurting can be treated with so flippantly, with such disregard for experience or pain, and just that there's this the willingness to make assumptions, the willingness to steamroll, and then, like you said, Nathan, to hide behind sort of these sort of very thin veils, like the veil about confidentiality, or the veil of policy, or the veil of precedence.
Yeah,
it's appalling. So I think it's really great to be able to expose some of this and help people understand what's really going on.
I love it.
So Cassidy, apart from the monitoring piece, because we could list, just based on what you told us, we can list a handful of things that we would want to change. What else do you think you would change about the machine, so to speak?
Yeah, oh my gosh. I feel like we've touched on quite a bit of it, but just the negative connotation towards addiction, or this umbrella term that fits everybody. Like they put you into this box that if you don't pass, you fail. And it's like, that's just not how it is in life. Like that's, I got signed with this 3-year contract. And I think one of the things that I would like to see the whole thing go away, but I think one thing that I think would really help is a reassessment. Like if you diagnose someone with diabetes and you give them a treatment plan of X, Y, and Z meds, you don't say, see you in 3 years. Like, yeah, you see, I'm going to see you in a little bit and see how this is working for you. Like maybe we'll make some adjustments. Like, oh yeah, this program's 12 times a month meetings, 4 times a month meetings with the monitor, daily check-ins for 3 years. And then nothing. Like you literally go from this hardcore daily monitoring structure, everything, to nothing. Like, and maybe this program wasn't working for me. Like maybe mutual support group meetings were great for me in the beginning. And then maybe after 6 months, they weren't doing me any good. And they're actually creating a lot of tension and emotional damage. And now I'm being forced to go to these meetings, speaking personally, that now are not doing anything for me. And now I hate going to them. Not your group, Nathan, other groups. They just weren't working, but I was still forced to do these things to check off these boxes when it's not necessarily working. Like I get needing to be sober. I get needing to create some kind of proof. But the way they go about it is just very belittling, very degrading. You feel very cancerous to society in this program. Like it's just, I've never felt so, like to be so vulnerable and feel like you're making a change, to be told, I don't know, the program is terrible. Like the machine is terrible.
And the machine leans so heavily on the disease model. And then every action they take defies that. And like you said, I love the way you said that, like the failure to reassess, or the unwillingness to reassess. And then just to sort of dismiss someone completely at the end of it. The disease model that's not what they're operating on. It's a ruse.
It's a ruse. It's a charade.
Literally, it is. Yeah.
It's what's required for litigious reasons and insurance purposes, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But maybe it will get better. At least people will know we hope at least some healthcare professionals will know a little bit more about what happens, and that's kind of the idea of what we're trying to do here. So thank you so much, Cassidy. You really you didn't have to put the effort in that you did today, and we appreciate it. We feel it, and the listeners will too. You really opened up about a lot of things there that are obviously important to yourself and will be important to others. And everybody always tells me when their contract's up and the cage opens and they fly away, they say, "Oh, don't worry, I'll come back once in a while." And I never see him again. But
hey, look, you're seeing me now.
But I don't blame them. And it's not exactly true, because I still do see a couple of people, and I hope you're one of them. You always, you were a delightful member of our groups, and yeah, we're going to miss you. But man, I'm happy you're through this.
And Cassidy, you hold the esteemed ranking that of all, and I've done more Zoom meetings in the last 2 years than I ever could have imagined I would have done, like thousands of just different things on Zoom. And you hold the longest distance of logging into Zoom, like literally the end of the earth. And Cassidy logged in from a tiny little mountain village and joined our group. So that was your level of dedication. It was apparent in that moment.
Yeah, quite impressive. Where was that again? Indonesia?
Nepal.
Nepal. Right?
Yeah. It was at the end of one of the treks in Nepal.
It's pretty amazing.
It was a pretty amazing trip. But that was, that was the thing I had to take. They said, you can go, but you have to go to a certain amount of meetings. And I said, I'll try. And that was me trying.
Well, Cassidy, thanks again. Your courage and your tenacity are inspiring to me. I know they will be inspiring to those who listen. And I just really commend you for what a strong survivor you clearly are. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.